Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. We have a lot of football to talk about today, but before we get into that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive when dirt was new, my dad, Tim.
Yeah, that's what I always said about my mother.
It's about you now. You are officially in your 60s now.
Yeah,
You're officially as old as dirt.
No, but I could probably see it from here.
Like the dirt that was created when you were born will be the dirt you're buried in.
So we were going to talk about a lot of fun football things, but obviously that took a sharp right-hand turn.
Yeah, Damar, Hamlin, everybody knows about it. We don't need to talk about what happened that much, but probably the absolute scariest thing I've ever seen in a football game and really on live television ever. He gets hit in the chest. There is an update. It sounds like he had a heart attack.
He did. They administered.
Hit at the wrong time.
It sounds like I watched a cardiologist last night, and granted, it's very preliminary, but
right.
Sounds like he got hit in between heartbeats.
To the point where I watched the same cardiologist you were talking about, and I also saw him mention on Twitter, a millisecond after, a millisecond before he got hit, if he would have been hit at that point, nothing would have happened. It is literally the perfect timing of perfect timing.
Most imperfect timing.
That's true.
But I will say this, and all credit to the NFL for having the emergency services at the stadium. They rehearse for these kind of things. Hopefully they were never needed. Last night they were, but they were immediately on him, immediately giving him CPR. They gave him a chance to live. If this would have been back in the 70s, it's a different outcome because they had to wait for people to get there.
Right. Still in critical condition. This is as of Tuesday when we're recording this video. So as of now, he is still in critical condition. Game got suspended. As of the NFL just did announce today that they have no plans to play this game this week.
Good.
Buffalo players are back in Buffalo at this point. They flew back last night. Some people stayed. But I do want to mention one thing. I mentioned Joe Burrow a lot, right? Joe Burrow is one of my favorite players in the NFL right now. And he just became more of a favorite player to me for the class act that he and the Bengals captains did. Story goes, Joe Burrow got the Bengals captains together and said, we need to go over to the Bills locker room. And they did, and they checked in on all the players.
It was a classy thing to do. It was the right thing to do on top of that. And good for Joe Burrow for having the presence of mind to think about others, people other than his team at that point.
Knew it wasn't about football at that point.
It wasn't.
It wasn't about football. As soon as you took those guys off the field and gave people a chance to feel what just happened, there's no way you could put them back on the
field. No. And honestly, I just think that the league should go forward with the Bengals and the Bills having played 16 games, wherever the tiebreakers fall. There's no way you can play that game anytime soon. They're going to have to play next weekend.
They are.
But that game is just not going to be able to happen. I don't think anyways.
If you wanted to play it again, this being Tuesday, if you wanted to play it and still finish the season, it would have had to been played tonight and then move the Bills and Bengals games to Monday.
And we talked about that last night. That would have required an announcement early in the morning that he was okay.
Right.
And it's just, it didn't happen.
And people kept asking, what's taking so long? Just call the game. Well, they were trying to figure all that out.
Right. They didn't know how it was.
I never for 1 second thought that the players were coming back on the field to play. That wasn't going to happen. They put it in the players' hands, and the players just said, I can't. You saw Josh Allen's face. I mean, that says it all. You saw players in tears. You couldn't ask players to go back on the field to do that. It wasn't the right thing to do.
It took an hour.
It was a there's a lot of moving parts.
Yes, there is.
Behind the scenes.
It took an hour, maybe a little more.
Right.
I think that's amazingly quick.
It is. You need to decide, are we giving fans their money back? You need to decide, are we playing this game tomorrow? How do we get the hotels? When is this going to be happening? There's a lot of moving parts. This is late in the season, and you can't blame the NFL for saying, hey, let's make sure we have a plan to make sure we can get these guys home and get them safe and make sure Hamlin's okay.
They also made arrangements for counselors to be available.
They did. I thought the NFL handled it as good as they could have. I've been in situations in business, and I think people forget that because the NFL is so popular. I've been in a situation in business where I've had coworkers die. I had a coworker that was fighting cancer, and he didn't make it past that. And at the same time, it's still a bit, you're going to make sure people have the time off. We obviously all were close to him. We all went to the funeral. But at the same time, you still have a business to run. So there were a lot of behind the scene things saying, hey, I worked retail at the time. So does the store close? Can we get people from other stores to come and help out to keep the store open? Those are real business conversations that have to happen. It doesn't mean that people don't understand and that they don't care, because they do. But it's still a business, and you still have to take time to make those business decisions.
I went through the exact situation when your grandfather died. He was in the hospital with cancer. Just dropped everything. I owned the radio station at the time. We dropped everything. We came up, and I was with Dad, talked to one of my partners, and he's like, I get it. I do. But what are we doing about the business?
Right.
Because we still have to go on with that. And I was heading back that afternoon, and that was the day Dad passed away. But it's not as easy as some people would make it think.
No. And I got to imagine one thing they've been working on too is every single game is either going to have a patch on every player's helmet with the number 3 on it, or they're going to do a moment of silence at every single NFL game.
That's a guarantee
for Hamlin, because he's not out of the woods yet. He's still in critical condition. And from Sports Talk with Dad here, from the deepest of our hearts, I mean, our thoughts and prayers go out.
One of the best things I saw last night, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good.
He had a charity where he's doing a toy drive, and word got out on Twitter, hey, if you really want to show him, besides just sending prayers, if you want to show something in a demonstrative way that you're thinking of him, donate to his charity.
Right.
Almost $5 million since last night, and we were part of that. We donated on behalf of Sports Talk with Dad.
Yep.
Because that's the best way I knew of where I could say, yeah, when you come out of this, you're going to see that there was an outpouring of love for you.
Yeah, we have some new sponsors coming in this year, and I can tell you the first little bit of that sponsorship that we got did go directly to his charity. We wanted to make sure we were able to help in any way we could, and that's the best way from a distance, at least we know how.
Yeah, and hopefully some of that can be rerouted, because there's going to be a lot of expenses. It's going to be covered by it's going to be covered by the NFL, but he's going to have a lot of expenses after this for the comeback and everything he's going to need to do.
They are. You know who I hope he talks to is the why am I blanking on his name now?
Ryan Clark from last night.
Not Ryan Clark, Ryan Shazier, former Ohio State linebacker, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was almost paralyzed in an NFL game, and was told he wouldn't be able to walk again, and luckily he is walking again. I mean, it's a different situation, but similar in the fact that your career ended in one play, in 1 second.
There was somebody I was listening to. This happened to a kid playing lacrosse down in Florida.
Yeah.
Same situation.
I know
he
what
took
you're
a
talking
ball
about.
in the chest, and he was down. He came back and played later. We're way too early to even speculate, but 99% chance Damar Hamlin's career is over.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, he didn't breathe for a long time.
Yeah,
and that's the scariest thing, is that there's no oxygen going to the brain. So there's a lot to worry about at this point. And again, we're not a show that gets too serious on things, and so we're gonna move on from the topic.
I will say one more thing: if you haven't seen Ryan Clark's 2-minute speech last night on ESPN, go and watch it. It was outstanding and put everything in perspective.
Yeah, all we can say is we wish him the best of luck. This has been covered by everyone everywhere. We felt, because we do talk sports, we had to make sure we at least made comments to it and send out our thoughts and prayers.
And more importantly, we're parents.
We are both parents.
Thank God his mother was there.
Thank God his mother was there. And thank God he's still around.
Yes.
You know, he is still around. There is faith he's going to make a full recovery, and we're hoping for that. One thing I don't understand is Skip Bayless sent out a tweet, and I'll let you read it because I know you have it in front of you.
Got it right here.
Go ahead. Read this thing out.
Nice.
Yeah, you got to be able to see. You're old. We understand.
No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of the game, but how? This is late in the season. A game at this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant.
He got crucified.
It's like everybody forgot that last sentence.
Right.
He wasn't saying we need to make this decision.
No.
He was saying this just doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
And he was crucified.
Because nobody reads the whole thing anymore. It's a headline news. People read the headline. People don't read the last sentence of what people say anymore. And it's unfortunate. I don't understand what he said literally what we were saying, what everybody was saying.
Everybody was asking those questions.
What are they going to do with the game? And he's asking the same thing this late in the season. Everybody in their living room watching the game, especially Bills and Bengals fans and anybody who's AFC, the Chiefs were asking this as well. What are they going to do with the game? All he did was reiterate what was on everybody was thinking as that break was going on, and he gets crucified for it.
And
people calling him to be fired
immediately. And he clarified not too long afterwards. And he said, nothing is more important than a young man's health. That was the point of my last tweet. I'm sorry if it was misunderstood, but his health is all that matters. Again, everything else is irrelevant. I pray for him and will continue to. I think, you know me. Skip Bayless I've criticized him over the years. He's a Cowboy fan. He makes no mistake. He's not a big Packer fan. Certainly not an Aaron Rodgers fan.
Right.
But he was crucified for something that he shouldn't have been last night.
No, he said himself, it's irrelevant, but he was asking questions that the NFL has to answer. Like, don't forget, these are questions that have to be answered. They 100% do. You need to know what's going to happen next with those games because, I mean, paychecks are on the line here. Tickets are on the line here. There's a lot to do with the business. And he's asking the question again, and I know I've said it 3 times in a row here. That's a question that needs to be answered by the NFL. And there's nothing wrong asking that question, especially when he ends it with saying,
it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. He's saying this guy's health doesn't matter. I wonder what the NFL is going to do now.
And if anybody else out there is saying they didn't think it, they're lying. Because everybody
Of course they're lying.
Question.
Of course they're lying.
So
we were sitting there saying, what are they going to do? Everybody in the stands, everybody on ESPN, people were asking that. They were saying it needs to be postponed and questioning what was going to happen next, but still making sure Hamlin was okay, which we all want to see happen. We would all love him to see him make a huge comeback, and if he wants to play again. At least be a part of the Bills family for the rest of his life.
I'm sure he will be.
I mean, I remember it wasn't as serious, but you remember Nick Collins. Nick Collins was a Hall of Fame safety. And I remember when he went down, right before he was about to get a big old contract, and he got a neck injury and never played again. Like, he's a part of the Packer family now, as he should be. But it can happen in the blink of an eye. This is just the scariest thing we've ever seen.
It's a violent sport. And that hit that took place, and I had to rewind it 4 or 5 times, was a hit you see 200 times every game.
Well, the scariest part to me, and I know he said we move on, and we're going to right now, but is that he got up, he patted a Bengals player on the arm, and then went down. And it was very, very scary. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to Sports Talk with Dad. We're going to link his charity below. If you are able to and you have the means, we can at least make something good out of this by making sure his charity is well taken care of, and that the kids that he clearly cared a lot about enough to put a charity in his name are taken care of. That's the good we can make come out.
He was looking to raise $2,500 to provide toys for kids. Well, he's now got $5 million.
Yeah,
and that's good.
And that is a good thing that came out of it. So again, we're gonna link his charity in the comments below. If you are able, go in there, make a donation to at least get some light out of this terrible situation. Moving on to the rest of the NFL here, because I do want to get on to some happier topics. Derek Carr. We didn't talk about this because it happened after we recorded our show last week. Derek Carr not only was benched, he was asked to leave the team.
And he unfollowed them on social media.
Which I don't blame him.
Not a happy breakup.
It was not. There were hard conversations, and Stidham throws 3 touchdowns, 2 to Davante Adams, and almost beats the San Francisco 49ers, losing in overtime.
And oh, by the way, just for the point of record, I looked something up. Everybody's saying how Adams has had a bad year. He's had over 1,000 yards. He's had a really good year, 75, 80 catches.
We had our episode, spell regret, ADAMS.
Right.
There is a huge regret there. I do want to get into some very specific situations here because Derek Carr is no longer going to be a Las Vegas Raider. It's done. You can cut him June 1st. I believe the cap hit is about $12 million. Or you can trade him. Now, there are a lot of teams that would like to get him before June 1st because there are a lot of teams out there that could use a starter. The Jets could definitely, he would be a huge upgrade over what they have right now. You're looking at
Tampa Bay.
They need to replace Brady at some point.
New Orleans,
that would be an upgrade
Houston,
there.
Maybe.
Houston, definitely.
Well, they need an upgrade, but I don't think that's an appropriate.
That would be really funny if
it wouldn't.
Derek Carr went to Houston where David Carr was, because he'd be going to just as bad of a team as his brother went to Houston.
His brother is physically going, no.
Right. Here's a question I have for you, and let me put up a trade scenario here for you. Derek Carr to the Green Bay Packers for Aaron Rodgers. Now, I've spread out a couple different things here that you can see. You can break it down. You can see it on the screen.
If I was close enough, I'd be feeling your forehead right now.
I promise I'm healthy. Here's the situation. Now, obviously, the key scenario we'd want here in this situation is for Aaron Rodgers to win a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers and to retire and be a Packer for life. That's dream scenario. But say he even does win a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers and the Packers are ready to move on to Jordan Love. That decision had to be made with Brett Favre. It's a question with Aaron Rodgers now too, and Jordan Love looks ready to go. Next Hall of Famer. You've heard it here first. I'm saying in a situation, you could trade Aaron Rodgers to the Las Vegas Raiders, get Derek Carr 2 first-round draft picks. Do you not make that trade? Derek Carr becomes your backup to Jordan Love.
It's one that you'd have to consider. I honestly think the deal is already done as a free agent for Brady to go there.
Brady could definitely end up
bringing Gronkowski with him.
Yep.
And then you've got Gronk and Adams and Brady, and they try to put something together for a last roundup for Brady. I can see that happening. That makes the most sense.
Where else do you that's my ridiculous idea here. Where do you see Derek Carr ending up next year?
Here's one.
Or does Vegas just blow up the team and start over? Do they get rid of Adams? Do they get rid of Waller? Do they get rid of Renfro? Do they get rid of Jacobs? Do they get rid of Carr and just stockpile draft picks, pull a 1988 Dallas Cowboys and just start over?
The answer, I think, is no. I think they've got enough pieces there to be a very good team. They're a quarterback away. Here's my suggestion for where the other place where Carr could be a good fit, depending on if Garoppolo is healthy, and coming back, is San Francisco. They're moving on from Trey Lance.
They are moving on from Trey Lance.
And if you put Derek Carr as a backup to Garoppolo, assuming Garoppolo comes back, you've got 2 solid starters.
Purdy's a rookie.
Purdy's done very well.
Playing really well.
He has done.
Do you really step away? Is Derek Carr an upgrade over Purdy at this point? I don't think the answer is yes to that.
I don't know.
Because you know what you have in Derek Carr. You have a guy who unfortunately has proven he can't handle the pressure. Because if he could, he wouldn't be in this situation. Rather than have potential of a guy who you're going to see what he's like in championship football because the playoffs are coming and he will be their starter.
Yes. Purdy is very young.
He's a rookie. He's irrelevant.
Absolutely, he's a rookie. But he's not only that, he's young. He's making a huge jump from Iowa State to the NFL. That's a magnitude jump. That's almost like the closest thing I can put is Watson on the Packers coming from North Dakota State. It's just a huge jump in speed.
It's not as big of a jump. Iowa State's still a Division I team.
They are, but still, they're not playing. It's not like they're playing Ohio State or Alabama
playing
week
the Big
in,
12.
week out. They're playing in the Big 12, which isn't the Big 12 of old.
It is not.
So he's done great. He's been calm under pressure. He's won the games he's had to win. He's very Trent Dilfer-esque right now. He's a game manager.
I mean, I think that's kind of an insult to what Purdy's been able to do.
He's being asked to manage the game and not make mistakes.
He is.
And that's Trent Dilfer. Dilfer could make, this isn't a criticism on him. He kept things moving. He made the plays when he had to, but their defense was being asked to do the majority of the
Correct.
work.
San Francisco's not. That offense is asked to do a lot here. And here's the thing with Derek Carr, too. You've given him all the weapons he could have asked for. And I was a big believer in Derek Carr coming into this year. I thought this was going to be a blow-up year for him. He was given all the weapons he could have asked for. He has a possible MVP at running back. He has a Hall of Fame wide receiver that's still in his prime and playing extremely well. You have Hunter Renfrow, who is huge. You have Waller, granted he's been hurt, but even in the beginning of the season, you had Waller, who is one of the best tight ends in the league when he's healthy. And you're not able to bring this team to where it needs to be, and you haven't been in the division that people expected you to be in. The Chargers haven't performed the way they want to. The Broncos let you way down.
Look, we had this conversation before, right around draft time, and I said Derek Carr is what Derek Carr is. And he's proven me correct on that.
It's time to move on. It's just a matter of how much do you start over. They're in a position to draft a quarterback, and they have a team where a rookie quarterback could thrive.
If I'm the Raiders, I'm doing everything possible to get the package deal of Brady and Gronk. And that's where we go.
Is Brady isn't Brady anymore.
No.
He's shown that this year. He's going to sell tickets.
He's also going to he's going to win you the games he needs to win. He's in the playoffs in Tampa Bay. Granted, Tampa hasn't had nearly the team they've had the last couple of years.
Right. Brady refused to go to Vegas before.
Different scenario now.
It's Josh McDaniels. It's not John Gruden. So it is a different scenario than it was before.
And it's Devontae Adams. And it's Gronk. If all reports are true,
I could see him coming back.
I could see him coming back and going there.
I mean, coming back and playing in Tampa took him from being the voice of a cannabis company or CBD or whatever it was to getting a huge commercial deal for USAA. Sure. So it was the smart move. The quarterbacks have fallen, ladies and gentlemen. Before the show, I was telling him that's not going to stay up. And my point has been proven. You broke my photo. I'm going to be very, very mad at you.
No, it's still fine. Sorry, everybody. Welcome to live broadcast.
It's an interesting situation. I tell you what, if I'm the Raiders GM, you do have a solid team. You need some help on defense. Your defense hasn't been keeping you in games. You need an upgrade at quarterback. You've spent all this money to surround who you thought your franchise quarterback was. Sure. I don't know where you have to go. Baker Mayfield could be a solution there if the Rams don't keep him. Baker Mayfield could do really, really well in Vegas with that team.
I think Mayfield's looking at the Jets. He's going to be looking at the Raiders. He's going to be maybe staying with the Chargers, depending on what.
He won't make the same mistake he made with Beckham Jr. and with Jarvis Landry twice, where he's not getting him the ball.
No. Mayfield's proven he's come in, he's shut up, and he's played ball in Los Angeles.
Well, man, think if Devontae Adams is on the Packers still right now. I mean, the Packers are a different team, and they're probably favorites to win the Super Bowl with the way the defense is playing. But talk about you can't go home again. All Adams wanted to do is go back home,
right?
And it just proves once again.
We talked about
going back home just lets you down. It's not the same.
We talked about that too, that you can't go home again and expecting to go back and have Derek Carr, your buddy, to be the quarterback he was in college and blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. And it's proven here. We were ahead of the game once again. The Sunday Night Football crew called out Kenny Pickett and his teeny tiny whopper.
Yes, they did.
And we were ahead of the game calling this out. Check out this clip right here.
The other one in conversation is Kenny Pickett, and the big story with Kenny Pickett is this guy's got 8.5-inch hands,
which is exactly my size hands. And we were talking about it. The biggest thing is not going to be, he proved in the combine that he can throw it a mile long, but he's going to get slapped at all the time, and it's going to come out very easily.
And show the back of your thumb on camera. Look at where your thumb is on this ball. Like, you don't have a good grip on it.
No, I don't.
It's right there. We called this out. If you want to go back and watch that episode, it's linked in the bottom here below. You can check all of our previous episodes. You will find it. But this was one of our first episodes we did. This is when we were in the old studio with crappy mics, as you heard.
But we proved
a point. You have 8.5-inch hands.
This is the same size hands as Kenny Pickett, and they're not big hands.
They're not big hands, especially not for an NFL football. We had that NFL football to the lowest possible PSI allowed in NFL games, unless you're Tom Brady. And it does not fit your hands. And again, you have 8.5-inch hands. And guess what's happening? He's becoming extremely fumble prone because, again, the big offensive linemen there are just getting there and knocking that ball out.
Big defensive, not offensive.
Big defensive guys, yes.
They are. And they're targeting him. And granted, he's made some incredible passes, and he's going to figure it out. And the gloves he wears, same size hands, but let's face it, his hands are much stronger than mine are.
They are.
But it's still
double jointed.
Still tough to hold on in NFL football, and we will include the link to that show in the comments below.
We will. And it's just, I don't know how Joe Burrow does with his hands. I have the same size hands as Joe Burrow, which is probably why I think he's as good as he is. We have something in common. Plus, he's football Jesus. So, there's that. But what?
Have you ever heard of the term blasphemy or sacrilegious? They both apply to you.
Every once in a while, God gives us a gift, and we need to appreciate for what it is. And he has given us a gift in Joe Burrow. So appreciate it.
We're going to address something similar to that at the end of the show when you turn it over to me, just so you know.
But I will say, 8.5-inch hands, like we showed in that clip, it is small hands, and that's going to be a struggle for him continuing going forward. That's not something you can fix.
No, his hands are not going to grow over the next year or two.
It's just genetics. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, for him having as small hands as he does, he still throws a pretty ball.
He does.
You got to give him credit for that. He led a game-winning drive on Sunday night. I think he's a really good leader. I think he's a guy that gets it. But you're asking a lot. What did I say when Kyler Murray was drafted? He's not going to be able to overcome his height. And guess what? He hasn't.
Look at Russell Wilson, who tried to be a pocket passer this year. It's just not there. You can't do that, Russ. You got to roll out. Go back to your old system.
You do.
So
it's going to continue to be interesting. Speaking of Russell Wilson, by the way.
Okay.
If you're the Broncos, you have a way to get out of this contract. And still having $70 million in cap. Now, I have to give credit to another YouTuber who came up with this because it was from him I got it. That's Good Sports. I will also link that in the comments below because you should go and watch it because it's very, very interesting. But he's talking about, and watch the video, he goes into more detail than I will here. But what it does show is that you'd have to cut a few players. You'd have to get rid of some contracts that you probably don't want to have anyways. You're going to take a hit in dead money, but you can get out of this and start over if you want to without losing any of your big wide receivers, maybe losing your kicker, which is tough. But by doing all of it, you could have $70 million in cap hit and still get rid of Russell Wilson.
Or they can do what was suggested today. You can pay Sean Payton $20 million a year to coach the team and bring him in and turn Russell Wilson around, which I think is the easier way out.
You would, but Russell Wilson's more interesting in being a celebrity at this point than he is being a quarterback. He's proven that time and time and time again.
He was with a rookie head coach that he never was on the same page and I don't think ever respected. You put a Sean Payton there, you put a Jim Harbaugh there.
But it didn't have to be that way. That's like anybody else going into their getting a new boss and saying, well, I just don't like him. In what other situation does the employee win?
Actors. They'll get a director fired. It's one of our favorite movies of all time, Tombstone, that happened. He wasn't getting along with the actors. The actors basically fired him, and Kurt Russell took over. But
he also kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, he did.
In the middle of that.
However, I don't think Denver's going to walk away from Russell Wilson. He is a Hall of Fame cornerback. I think you go ahead and you get a coach to come in. Paying a brand new coach $20 million is going to send shockwaves through the other owners in the league.
It will.
Because the price poker's gone way up at that point.
It has, but you also have an owner that can take that hit. You have officially the richest owner in sports. The Walmart heir is there. It's a lot of money.
A lot of money. Sean Payton is absolutely worth it, I think.
he's going to get more than $20 million a year.
That's almost double anybody else in the NFL is getting right now.
You don't know that. Nobody knows what coaches' salaries are in the NFL.
Of course they do.
You're telling me that there are NFL coaches getting paid just as much?
The average quarterback is getting paid, or average coach is getting paid between $7 and $9 million.
I think it's more than that.
No.
I would bet it's more than that. But say you do bring in Sean Payton, $20 million a year is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. $20 million a year is a lot of money.
But to your point, for the Walmart family, it's monopoly money.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we have in our piggy banks at this point, you know? It's like breaking open my kid's piggy bank for them. That's nothing to billionaires. And to prove, by the way, squirrel moment. Follow me. I should have a squirrel go across the screen every time this happens.
Got him up there.
There he is. Yeah. So we have the squirrel. Do you know how long a million seconds is? Just to show people don't understand what a billion
One
is.
more than 999,000 minutes.
It's 11 days.
Okay.
A million seconds is 11 days. Do you know how long a billion seconds is?
A lot longer.
Guess. Take a real guess.
Well, it's 1,000 times more than a million seconds. So 111 years or something like that. I don't know.
31 years.
31 years. Okay, fine. My math is. We had this argument about how tall Everest was the other night, and I'm proving you're trying to do math in my head.
I got you this time.
Never a good idea.
A million is 11 days.
Okay.
A billion seconds is 31 years.
Yeah. If you're a billionaire,
It's monopoly money
That's
for
monopoly
the Walmart family. It is nothing.
it's not even
to
pulling
that.
out a $20 bill. It's pulling out $20,000.
If that.
If that.
I mean, it's
no big deal.
crazy the difference it makes and how much these owners have to make now just to buy these teams for billions of dollars.
Well, did you hear if Washington sells, it's going to sell for $8 billion.
If it doesn't go into auction, yeah.
Even if it does, it probably will go for that amount.
Well, I just meant it'll go for more if it goes for auction.
Oh, sure, yeah, it could. I mean, it's crazy how much, but that's the valuation of the franchises right now.
It's insane. I mean, is there something with if the Cowboys went up for sale?
Oh,
it would be like $20 billion for the Cowboys.
It's a license to print money.
It's a license to print money. That's a perfect way to put it. And it will be interesting because I do think the Cowboys go up for sale soon. What will be interesting is the Bears going up for sale because that's going to set the tone for Washington. Because if the Bears go less than $8 billion, Washington's not getting $8 billion.
The problem the Bears have is they don't have the stadium.
They do now. That's a big part of the project. The McCaskies are building a new stadium in Arlington Heights.
What I've
the
heard,
ground's already being broken.
A lot of work has to be done in Arlington.
Well, of course it does. You have to worry about traffic flow there. I mean, where they're talking about going off the exit, there is one exit there. I've been to that area. It is not a big area. There's a lot of development that needs to happen, but they'll get it done in a short amount of time. If Chicago knows how to do anything, it is how to stop traffic with construction projects. They have that figured out.
The residents are going to put up a huge stink.
No, they won't.
I bet you they do.
Their housing market just went through the roof.
Perhaps.
I mean, look what the houses in Green Bay are going for. These are $100,000 houses anywhere else in the state, and they're going for $500,000 to $600,000 in Green Bay. Their houses just went through the roof. I would be so excited if I bought a house 2 years ago in Arlington Heights and heard the Bears were building a stadium right next door.
Look, unfortunately, the Bears have been mismanaged badly by not Mrs. McCaskey, but by her sons and grandsons or whoever's running the organization. They have not had a control over that organization for decades now.
They haven't. And they're going to ruin Justin Fields.
It
really makes me sad because Justin Fields is a great quarterback, and they're just getting him killed out there because they don't have an offensive line, and they're just telling him to run. Listen, he is not Lamar Jackson. He can be. He can run just like Lamar Jackson can.
Until he gets hit a dozen times.
But he's got a better arm. It's the same thing with RG3. Yeah, RG3 could run, but the dude had a cannon for an arm. Same as Justin Fields. Dude's got a cannon. You need to take advantage of that because he could be a Hall of Fame quarterback just like somebody else who should be a Hall of Fame quarterback. My question to you here
is,
if the 49ers win a Super Bowl this year, Say they make it all the way. Say Garoppolo comes back, and say especially Garoppolo plays in that game and wins the Super Bowl. Is Jimmy Garoppolo a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Well, considering what our...
Don't answer. Don't steal my thunder.
I won't.
I want to know your real answer. If Jimmy Garoppolo comes back and plays either the AFC Championship or NFC Championship game and wins, and then wins a Super Bowl, or just plays a Super Bowl and wins the Super Bowl, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Not first ballot.
He 100% is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I
He is a Hall of Famer right now.
Can we leave the person you're going to talk about alone for one episode?
I just don't. I don't. It's been many episodes since I brought this up. We're overdue. How can you say that Jimmy Garoppolo is not a first ballot Hall of Famer? I'm not saying I disagree with you.
Look, I put him in the category. He's way above somebody we already talked about. He's better than Dilfer.
He's better than Dilfer.
I put him in that Eli Manning kind of frame. Eli's got two, but he's a Bob Greasy type. He makes the throws he has to make.
Yeah.
And honestly, we're talking about Bob Greasy. That 72 season that he always gets credit for is more Earl Morrall, who probably should be in the Hall of Fame. Who should be in the Hall of Fame. And now I'll use that analogy. If Earl Morrall's not in, somebody else shouldn't be in. But yes, I think Garoppolo is a Hall of Fame quarterback, especially if he wins the Super Bowl. He's earned it at that point.
Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
No.
How can you say he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer? Because do you know who I see him as? Who I see him better as, actually? I see him as Kurt Warner. And Kurt Warner is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So Jimmy Garoppolo is there for.
I thought you were going to say Kirk Cousins.
No, not Kirk Cousins. He has a better record as a starter than Kurt Warner. And if he does go to this, guess what he's done now? He's gone to 2 Super Bowls and lost, and 1 Super Bowl and won. All he's missing is the MVP, and he can never stay healthy long enough for that. He's the same quarterback. Makes the throws he has to make, but he's better because he can make the talent around him better. Kurt Warner had amazing talent around him that allowed Kurt Warner to be a good quarterback. He's better than Kurt Warner, and Kurt Warner was a first ballot Hall of Famer. So Jimmy Garoppolo is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, and I hope
first ballot.
He's not a first ballot. It's just the reality of the situation. He will not be a first ballot.
He has to be.
He won't be.
He has to be.
He will not be.
How can you say that?
Because
if he wins a Super Bowl this year,
I live in reality world. He will not be, even if he.
I thought I did too, but then reality got changed a few years ago.
Even
because Kurt Warner became a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Even if he wins the Super Bowl, and I hope he doesn't, because I'd rather see the Packers win.
I would too, but in reality, they have a good chance.
He's not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Then Kurt Warner needs to be taken out and put back in, not as first ballot Hall of Famer.
Look, considering what where the bar is now, I don't know why Jim Plunkett's not in the Hall of Fame.
Jim Plunkett should be in the Hall of Fame. Earl Morrall should 100. Earl Morrall should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago.
He is the new Jerry Kramer.
He's the greatest player not in the Hall of Fame. Is Earl Morrall? I 100% agree. He took the Colts to several winning seasons, including a Super Bowl, and he was the starting quarterback for a majority of that season. It was the Brady Bledsoe situation in '72 before that decision was made. Greasy got hurt first or second game of the season.
Was out all season.
Earl Morrall comes in, goes all the way through, including winning the AFC Championship game. Greasy's ready to go, and they put Greasy in the game. Earl Morrall should have been the quarterback for that team and should have won that game.
He would have won that game.
Oh, 100%. He won all the other games of the perfect season, and he never gets credit for it. Earl Morrall is definitely the new Jerry Kramer and needs to be in the Hall of Fame. If Garoppolo makes it to the Super Bowl and wins it this year, if he comes back and wins that Super Bowl, I think even if he doesn't come back, but is a big part of turning this season around for the San Francisco 49ers, you have to put him in the Hall of Fame. And you have to put him in as a first ballot Hall of Famer because you already set that precedent. And that's the issues you have to deal with now as the Hall of Fame is you set your precedent.
Okay. If I had the squirrel picture down here, I'd be doing this right now.
I haven't gotten a shot in a while. I had the Well, and honestly, is Jimmy Garoppolo worse than Kurt Warner?
No, I think he's every bit as good.
I think he's better.
He's
proven better than Eli Manning. If going to the Hall of Fame, difference is he's won 2 Super Bowls.
Correct. And look, if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't get hurt, it's a different conversation. He's just been hurt so often in his career. I think that's holding him back.
Oh, I do too. He's very injury prone, but he could come back. Luckily, he didn't have a Liz Frank break. He had the same broken foot that I had, which sucks. It hurts for a little bit, but after a few months, he'll be good to go. I couldn't imagine coming back and playing after having that broken foot in 3 months, but I'm not an NFL quarterback.
Look, I couldn't imagine coming back from back surgery the way Joe Montana did and getting hit, having had that same back surgery.
You know what I can't imagine, and I'm going off topic from football here, but you'll appreciate this. YouTube's been kind of interesting with me lately because it keeps sending me Larry Bird stuff. And Larry Bird playing the way he did, especially after he broke his back, is unbelievable. He was never the same player again, but he still made a game-winning shot over Jordan to go on to the next series.
Larry Bird is getting ripped, and I can't believe I'm indulging this squirrel path. But
welcome to my world.
I've been there a few times. It's not a nice place to live. Anyways, Larry Bird, some modern players are saying he's not as good as he was. And I keep wanting them to just yell at them and go, watch Chris Broussard. You kids just don't know how good Larry
watch
Bird
Gary
was.
Payton talk about him. Watch Magic Johnson talk about him. Watch one of my favorites is James Worthy talking about him. He came out and he said he was asked, you got to guard both Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, who was harder to guard? And he said, without a doubt, Larry Bird was harder.
Absolutely. Look, without Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, the NBA is not what it is today.
Without Larry Bird breaking his back, there is a lot more championship matchups that happen between Magic and Larry.
Okay. I'm going to reel you back in.
All right, reel me back in. Back to who I think is going to be a future Hall of Fame quarterback. I need an I'm right moment. I get a lot of them, but I'm going to take another one today.
There we go.
Trevor Lawrence, since week 10,
I've sent you the picture.
Has had a better QBR than Patrick Mahomes.
I sent you the picture. Zach Wilson's eyes, Trevor Lawrence's eyes, and the difference. Zach Wilson looks like, where am I? Trevor Lawrence looks like, we're going.
Trevor Lawrence is not getting into the conversation because he plays in Jacksonville, which sucks for Trevor Lawrence.
It's his rookie year this year.
This is his rookie year. You cannot count last year.
No.
You can't count last year at all. This is his rookie year. All last year's going to do is pad his stats for the future when he starts breaking all these records. He needs to get the hell out of Jacksonville, or Jacksonville needs to move. But he is going to be the next generation of football. As Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are starting to take over for Rodgers and Brady.
And Joe Burrow.
No, Joe Burrow is going to be with Trevor Lawrence as the next generation of players. Joe Burrow kind of falls into that. It may be all four at the same time because they're closer in age.
They're close.
But Trevor Lawrence is that next generation of great quarterbacks in the NFL. I said that in the beginning of the year. I said, you watch this kid turn around with a real coach. You watch what he's able to do and the throws he is making, the way he is making his reads. He is looking every bit as advertised.
He is going to be, he is. And he's got a good coach in Doug Peterson.
He does.
People forget Doug Peterson wasn't a bad quarterback. He backed up Brett Favre for years and years and years. He's
for the Eagles for many years.
Yeah, and he's a good quarterback. He's going to work. He's obviously been working with him,
right?
Showing him how to pick things out, doing everything that didn't happen last year.
Correct.
And Trevor Lawrence is responding, and he's playing outstanding. Next year, they are going to be in the playoff conversation.
I mean, you want to talk about, though, why Jacksonville needs to move. Again, I used to live in Jacksonville. I went to college there. I wasn't far away from the stadium. Jacksonville is not. It's the smallest metropolitan area of any major city in the United States. Everybody's like, oh, it's the largest city in America.
Hold on.
Landmass-wise.
Jacksonville is bigger than Green Bay.
Green Bay is not a major metropolitan area.
No, it's not. But, we're talking NFLs. What if we
But it is smaller than Milwaukee.
True.
Which boggles the mind.
It does, but I actually didn't know it was smaller than Milwaukee. When you think about it, we've always said, without the Packers, Green Bay is Dubuque.
Right.
Without the Jaguars, Jacksonville is
exactly what Jacksonville is.
Is just a
just
city on the coast. It's a city on the coast. It's a fishing community.
It is. It still is. The thing is, the Jaguars have no impact on Jacksonville at all. They have zero impact on Jacksonville. I was down there. You know how many people cared that lived in Jacksonville about the Jaguars? None.
Even when they were good.
Nobody cared about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They make Tampa fans look like
I got into the stadium for free by telling the security guard, listen, would you rather have us out here or have us inside where the Jaguars can actually make money because we're going to buy food? I mean, that's the situation the Jacksonville Jaguars were in. The only game they sold out was when the Packers came to town.
And then they still had part of the stadium blocked off.
They did. They did. Most of their games were blacked out when they had the old blackout rules. He's going to die in Jacksonville. So one of two things need to happen, and the NFL needs to make this happen. You either need to force the Jacksonville Jaguars to move to a San Antonio, Austin area, or someplace else, or you need to get Trevor Lawrence off the Jacksonville Jaguars so he can actually get the primetime attention that he deserves.
Or Doug Peterson turns it around and brings the focus, forces the focus on to Jacksonville.
Still nobody's going to go to the game. People go to Tampa Bay Buccaneers games more than they go to Jacksonville games.
Well, I was going to say Jacksonville makes Tampa fans look loyal.
Right.
Which is not true.
They have to move because Trevor Lawrence is the next NFL great quarterback.
Well, at one time,
he's getting no attention.
At one time when we were down there, they were talking about playing half the games in Orlando.
Right.
Which Orlando Stadium, is, if possible, is worse than Jacksonville's. But at least it's in a tough spot because it is such a tourist area. There's no built-in base.
Well, the problem with Jacksonville, it has the most terrifying, I don't know what you call it, but it's where three interstates come together, and it's this weird roundabout thing where all the exits are or the entrance to this highway are in the exact same spot, and they kind of just say, okay, we don't really have any merge pattern here, go. It's absolutely terrifying, and you have to get on that and then go to probably the worst smelling bay I've ever smelled.
Okay, except for one thing, though.
And it's not a good area.
You can rip Jacksonville all you want. It's the first place I ever had a Cuban sandwich. And for that, I fell in love with... If you haven't had a Cuban sandwich, go to Publix in Florida if you're around, which Publix is the best grocery store in the history of man.
Jacksonville has some of the best food, culture-wise, I've ever had. The seafood there is to die for. And the way people there, I don't know how they make the food, but it's better than anywhere else. I used to I drive from Tampa to Jacksonville, and I'd always stop outside of Jacksonville. There was one stand. It was like a trailer. I mean, it was nothing. Just one day.
I know the one.
Everybody that's been there knows the one. It's a little trailer, and it looks like the most ridiculous place. And I was so hungry, and I stopped there, and that became a permanent stop for me. It was just chicken and seafood, and it was the best food I've ever had.
Well, you know, one thing I've noticed?
But they don't deserve a football team. They need to move because Trevor Lawrence is not going to get the attention there. No. Even if you turn it around, people are not going to go to those games. There's not enough people in Jacksonville to support that team, and not enough people care to support that team. Move them to San Antonio where people are actually going to pay attention.
So we've ripped Hall of Fame quarterback today. We've ripped an entire community.
We ripped a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Anybody else you want to go after today? Because I do.
Okay.
We aren't there yet.
Fair enough. You're making me nervous about what this last word's going to be. Nah. I do have another question for you as a football fan.
Okay.
And by the way, whatever you guys think, because you're going to yell at me if I forget to do this once the show's done, whatever you think about everything we've said, especially about Jacksonville, because don't let Trevor Lawrence die in Jacksonville, Florida. Let us know in the comments below, and while you're down there, follow these instructions right here. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. You are a fan of a football team.
I am.
I am a fan of a football team. And our football team, the Green Bay Packers, have a situation right now where they can win and they can go in.
Correct.
They control their own destiny, or they can lose and either Seattle or Detroit is going to go in, why they aren't playing those games at the same time. Why Green Bay and Detroit got flexed.
Oh, come on.
I know, but why? Because if Seattle wins, Detroit has nothing to play for. They're out.
I understand that. And if they lose, both Green Bay and Detroit could get in.
They could, but why wouldn't you just play them at the same time? You have three playoff teams. They both should have been playing at 325. It makes no sense.
Guess what? Green Bay moves the needle.
I understand that completely. I get it.
They are, no matter what Dallas says,
I get it.
They're America's team.
I get it.
They've got a national footprint.
But as a football fan, and this is what I need help from the fans of the show answering this question as well. Would you rather the Packers were 4-8? They were one loss away from not being in the playoffs and just being done right away. They had to win every single game, and they have.
Top 10 draft pick.
Top 10 draft pick. Would you rather lose early like that and be out of the playoffs like the Bears are, playing meaningless games? Or would you rather have your team make it all the way to the end where they are now, only to lose the night or the week before the playoffs start? Win it in and you lose. Which would you rather have?
I got to be honest with you. It will be a crushing loss. The way they've turned around and the way they've come back and just the passion. Green Bay in the playoffs is a dangerous team right now.
They are.
The only team that scares me, and we talked about this, would be San Francisco.
San Francisco is a very scary team.
They're a very scary team. Green Bay just doesn't play well against them.
You know why San Francisco is a scary team? Because they're looking purty.
I apologize.
Continue.
Anyways, it would be tough. I think I would rather have them lose the last game because it's been a fun ride through the month of December. It's turned what was a just awful season and boring and nobody interested into something that Green Bay can see hope for the future right now.
Right. I agree. I would rather be playing meaningful games.
Always.
At the end. I don't want to be the Bears where your season was over really in week 5. I mean, you were done and you were just watching meaningless games as your team lost again and again and again. I don't care what the draft is. Rather than the Texans who have won 2 games this year. I'd much rather be playing meaningful games and have my heart broken at the end of the season, like Packer fans have for many years now. Than be out of it.
Here's my problem, though. I picked the Lions to get into the playoffs.
You did,
and they're almost there. And I actually said 6 teams always get in. 6 teams that were in will be out. And I thought I was going to be right on both ends. I'm not pulling for the Lions to win. I'd rather have my prediction be wrong. But I did say that they're going to get in, but they will lose in Lambeau. It's going to be 28 degrees, which for Green Bay in January isn't a bad night.
Here's the big thing with the Lions. The Lions are 31 points average at home. They're 20 on the road. So they're not a good road team. And Lambeau's a pit. It may not be the pit that Kansas City is. It may not be as loud as Seattle is. But there is something about playing in Lambeau Field that has always at least gotten Aaron Rodgers fired up, unless you're in the playoffs. Then it doesn't fire him up as much.
Then he turns into...
Right. To be fair, 2020, he had half a crowd. If you had the whole crowd there and it was much louder, I think that game would have ended differently.
Here's my question, though. How many Lions fans are going to be there? Because I think they're going to be a lot. Because when the Packers were 4-8, people were selling their tickets. Because who wants to be in January watching that early team?
That's a lot of Packer fans that would have had to sell their tickets. I know a lot of Packer fans that are season ticket holders and they've held them on.
Look at how many people from Minnesota were there last week.
Yeah, well, here's the issue that we're having, right? Is that it's getting cold and there are a lot of season ticket holders that can get a lot of money for their tickets, watch the game on TV, and be warm.
Yeah. I would be one of those.
Those tickets right now are going for $400 a pop.
I know.
For bad seats.
How would you like to be somebody coming from the South to watch that game?
Hey, it's not me.
Not me either. But we do know somebody who's coming from Memphis to watch that game, and he's got a great daughter for buying him those tickets. We're talking about my nephew, Chad.
It's going to be cold.
It's going to be cold. I told him to find his Hunter's Orange.
Yes.
Someplace.
You don't see that as much anymore. It was really big in the 90s when I was growing up. You don't really see the Hunter's Orange in Lambeau anymore.
You don't.
Which is unfortunate. Bring back the Hunter's Orange. It was a third color, and it was great. And I think you should really bring back the Hunter's Orange to Lambeau. Come on, Hunters. Come back to the game from the fields. Get your deer, and then go watch the Packer game.
They all smell like deer piss.
Every last one of them.
Ugh.
That was part of the charm of Lambeau. It smelled like deer piss in the wintertime.
For those that
I've been to a game when I was a kid that they had a deer mounted on their car that they just got before they came to the game.
It was safe because nobody in Wisconsin would touch that because they respect deer hunting.
It was, the sad part is as a kid, I didn't even react. I was so used to seeing just deer on people's cars. It was like, oh, cool, they caught a deer.
And thank God they did, because hunting, one, saves the deer from starving, and number two, it keeps them off the roads from being hit.
It does. I think it's funny because I've told that story to friends of mine that have never been to Wisconsin, have never lived here, don't understand any of it, and they're like, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of. And it caught me off guard because I was like, I guess. No. I mean, if you really think of it that way, it didn't even cross my mind that was a weird thing. It's just something you see around here.
Not weird to me.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
I'm with you, but I think you and I have had an amazing show. A lot linked below, so make sure you check it all out. But before we head out, it is the scariest moment I have on this show. Any last words?
I was going to go with a completely different topic, but I actually have two. NCAA, you need to address your officiating because they completely blew the touchdown catch in the end zone by Michigan. They would have won that game.
We can talk about the Michigan game. We are not allowed to talk about the Ohio State.
Yeah, they should have won. But that's not the last point. It revolves around the unfortunate situation with Damar Hamlin last night. Media, you are a bunch of freaking hypocrites, because every time somebody will bring up God, any other time you're telling them to shut up, that we can't do that, it's not appropriate. But then when somebody gets hurt, the first thing everybody on there is doing is encouraging people to pray. If they can pray when somebody gets hurt, they can pray when they aren't hurt. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of the hypocrisy of it. I'm glad prayers can be done before a high school football game. If they can pray when somebody gets hurt, they can pray when they're just getting ready to go out on the field.
Okay. A lot of anger.
That is anger.
That was a lot of anger.
That pisses me off.
Now it is ironic, because I agree. Thoughts and prayers out when somebody's hurt. Nobody cares. Thoughts and prayers out when it's just a regular day.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
Number one, we still have freedom of religion. You could go to Walmart during COVID, but you couldn't go to a church. How stupid is that? Hopefully Americans have learned something on it, but getting back to the sports world, if you can pray when somebody gets hurt, and you should, there is no problem with praying before the game or after the game as a group, because in my mind, God is still in control of the world, and it's time to get back to praying a little bit more and watching a little less Kardashian.
You heard it here from the angry old man sitting across from me. I'm not saying the message was bad. I'm just saying you didn't have to be as angry about it.
Oh, I did. I was furious about it last night. I've been holding that all day. It's just...
Well, as last words go, it's about what I expected, and I appreciate you. I do. Hey, thank you so much again for watching. We'll see you next time. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.
Bye, everybody.